Right then, let's answer some more questions. Well, hello again and welcome back to my channel, and a huge thank you to all the responses from the Ask Me Anything Part 1, which went out a couple of weeks ago. Really nice to read through the comments there, some more questions to pick up with. There was a lot to cover in that one, and we've got a lot more to go through today. And at the end of the last one, I did finish on quite a serious note with a question, and I'm probably going to start with a slightly serious one as well today. Variety of topics to go through all of these, so let's get cracking in the first category, because there's a few questions that's cropped up on this one. So from Fat Hog Woodworking: as you're approaching 10,000 subscribers, what are the highs and lows of YouTube, and has there been any points where you were struggling to progress? And there was also ones about how do you end up forcing yourself into the workshop to get things done, and how do you keep yourself motivated to carry on, continue, that kind of stuff. So the 10,000 subscribers one, yeah, hopefully next month. I think it'll be, well, yeah, I'll talk about that nearer the time maybe. Highs and lows of YouTube. There is one particular thing that really gets you as someone who makes YouTube videos, and let's put it this way: you could spend hours and hours filming footage from all nice angles and then getting into the edit to get it down to 12 or 14 minutes, and you can take days, and you can be and ahhing over a few little seconds and going back and refilming bits that you're not happy with, excuse me, and your video bombs. It is absolutely shocking. Whereas you throw something together last minute because you had this bit of an idea, and poof, that takes off. So that's, you know, there's a high and a low involved in all of that, which is just all a bit surreal, really. And it's proof that there is no formula. You know, people talk about this algorithm and stuff all the time, and there might be like traits and stuff to follow, but let's be honest, a lot of it can be just luck of the draw, can it? So how'd you end up forcing yourself out into the workshop to get things done? Have you been any times when you've been struggling to progress? How do you keep motivated? Well, I'm going to take the answer away from myself, and I'm going to read you an email I received a couple of weeks ago, and this is kind of an example of, you know, some that I do get on occasion. So hey Leo, I found out and subscribed to your channel early in 2022, and I just want to pass on a personal note and thank you. I'm a retired 34-year US Navy officer and a granddaughter of a World War I British Army enlisted soldier carpenter who was originally from Liverpool. Woodworking has been a wonderful way to continue learning, and I thoroughly enjoy producing something made of beautiful wood. Thanks to YouTube channels, articles, and in person, I have increased my skills to where I am making furniture for my home. However, of all the YouTube channels on woodworking, yours has a special element because of your willingness and openness of how you are dealt with and evolved from your accident in the pursuit of your small business success. Most veterans are dealing with mental strain and physical limitations of their military service. Whenever I meet a fellow veteran interested in woodworking, I mention your channel because of the example and encouragement it provides. My physical limitations are nowhere near as severe as what you have to deal with, but you still inspire me in ways that have little to do with woodworking. That just happens to be a topic at hand. Because you put yourself out there, you're willing to be open, you remain a valuable teacher. In this case, I am a student older than you, but the inspiration is still there, so thank you. In case you ever have an opportunity to engage with British veterans, I think they would be inspired as well. Thank you and good luck in all you do. I don't really need to add to that, do I really? It's really is an honour to receive correspondence like that, you know, and it makes you realise probably, you know, when I started out this kind of thing, certainly, you know, I had very different intentions to where things are at now, but how you can inadvertently, you know, not consciously, I suppose, inadvertently offer help to other folk, and if some people can take something from what you're creating, and it can help them some way in their life, then surely that's got to be the most enriching part of doing anything like this, and it certainly is for me. So yeah, I was really, you know, kind of taken aback by that one. But you know, I do receive correspondence like that, and it's really nice to have those kind of interactions. And you obviously have withheld the name there and stuff, but I think it's really, really, you know, gives me motivation, shall we say. All right, okay, let's move on. From Phil Wyatt Projects, great YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed there already. If you could go back in time and build your current workshop again, is there anything you would have done differently? Great question, Phil. There's one little thing that kind of I'm conscious of, and I hope it won't create any problems down the line. But if you go back to when I'd done the flooring, I actually done the OSB flooring right to the edges of the base, and the modular walls have gone on top of the flooring. Now, I sealed all the edges and everything, and I put damp-proof membrane over it, so it should be fine. But my only concern would be if there was a problem with the OSB floor, the walls are sitting on it. So so I probably would have done that differently. I probably would have maybe put the walls up first, so the walls went directly onto the frame, the floor framing, and then put the OSB. So if I wanted to change anything, I could just simply take that up. So yeah, that's one thing. It's not, there's no issues or anything, Phil. It's just one thing at the back of my mind going, yeah, I probably would have done that one a little bit differently. Lewis LTW Carpentry, how are you finding your new workbench? Is there anything you would change now you've been using it? Just sat behind it now, I feel like a newscaster. Do you know what, Lewis? I wouldn't change a thing, mate. Seriously, I thought about the idea of putting like a dust collection thing, like a shelf underneath the MFT top, but that would then mean the shelf I've got underneath it would sacrifice height space. So no, not at all, mate. It's been in here now for about a year. Just over a year, I think. The casters, definitely. Putting it on 6 casters, great idea, so it's not sagged in the middle. Thanks for ever giving me that tip. And the piece de resistance, shall we say, what really recently has made a great bench incredible is the MFT hinge system from Ralph at Bench Dogs very kindly sent over to me, because I've got it facing, normally I had it this way up against the wall, but I've got it this way because of stock that's arrived, and it's perfectly fine where it is. It's so easy to use, and oh yeah, brilliant, absolutely love it, Lewis, and seriously, mate, I wouldn't change a thing. Next one's from James over in Australia. How many ambidextrally challenged woodworkers makers are there on YouTube? Well, apart from yourself, James, as the one-handed maker, and myself, I am unaware of any others currently out there. I did mention in a vlog last year, Andy King, who sadly passed away last year, was one-armed woodworker, and his videos are still up on YouTube. His family have kept them up. What I would say though, James, is I do have quite a lot correspondence, if you like, with folks who are physically limited or have a disability but don't put out YouTube content. I've got a guy who got to know quite well, Matt, over in Florida, who's fellow nerve damage, one-handed woodworker, and you know, he fires messages over to me on occasion. So there's Matt over there, but also I think as well, not just in terms of one-handed making, I do speak quite regularly with folk who've got debilitating conditions like arthritis, you know, so they've got restricted movement in the hands and stuff, and talking to them about adaptations I've made that obviously for me in my situation, but how it's helped them look at things in different ways and how they can adapt equipment, use clamps. MFT has been a real game changer since that's come into here, and also little things like the vacuum clamps that I got from Rutland's, they're a big source of help. So yeah, just you and I think, I mean, I've no doubt, James, there are others. I have looked, And I'm aware of folk who are actively out there with disabilities. But in terms of your question, maybe just you and me, mate. Okay, so that's question 4. Question 5 from, I think it's Duro's one. Would you consider doing a podcast series listening to how you articulate your personal journey? My thoughts are it would be a good fit for you. Good question. Yeah, really good question. Thank you. As it stands, no, I'm not really looking to do something like that. This is going to sound like an advert for my own thing here. There are reasons behind that, because, and I've referenced this in the past, that this isn't my full-time career. I am a school teacher, a secondary school teacher. So in the UK, that's 11 to 16-year-olds, and that is my real world job, as I describe it. And I have to be careful in what I put out. Sometimes I have to be a little bit guarded, because YouTube is a free-to-air platform. Anybody can watch it, and with the potential for crossover there, could potentially, not that it has, because it hasn't, could potentially cause problems down the line for myself. So putting stuff out there on anyone could listen, anyone could watch, it's a difficult one for me as it stands. However, if you caught my video last week, I have now launched my own website, www.hand-i-craft.com, which tells a little bit about myself, a little bit about the business. And I also have a members only platform in there, which is a subscription platform. For £3 a month, you can access additional content, which consists of vlogs, which is personal stuff about me. There's one went up there at the weekend, so that's where I go much more into a deep dive about some of the things that I have experienced, live with over the last few years. There's behind the scenes footage, which is where I talk more generally about woodworking, making, what's going on in here, and it'll also give you ad-free access to any of the YouTube videos like this one. So yeah, there's a lot more. It is quite unfortunate that I have to, I'm kind of limited in being able to speak about those things behind a paywall, if you like, but I hope people can understand the reasons why I'm doing that, as opposed from a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective as well. So I hope that answers your question for you. Anyway, right, here we go. 2 questions here. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? And why is the fine structure constant always 1/137? Well, I'm not going to answer those questions, because if I told everybody answers to them, it'd be boring, wouldn't it? So everybody would know. So it's best to keep some of those things a little bit confidential. Question 7 from Francis: what bear is best? That one I would go with Huggy. Right, okay, I've got one from Jeffrey and Peter, similar lines. How is woodworking making second career going, and where do you see yourself in 3 years' time? And you've been doing YouTube now for nearly 4 years. Where do you see yourself in 3 years' time? Alternatively, where would you like to be? So that one's top one's from Jeffrey, and the other one's from Peter. Now, things as in a second part-time business, I call it, really, are going really well. I'm really happy with where things are at the moment. I've had a period of time where I told you I had knee surgery a couple of weeks ago, so I've had a bit of time to myself. So I've been doing things like I worked on the website and stuff. So, and things are going well, because it's kind of, I remember, funnily, Peter's Millard, who's asked one of these questions, following his stuff from his subscription platform, and he talked about content creating. I think it was his annual review, and the importance of not putting all your eggs in one basket, because if I solely relied on YouTube, that YouTube could change the terms and conditions tomorrow. They could say, right, your monetized content can only be for people who've got 50,000 subscribers, and it's taken me nearly 4 years to get to nearly 10,000. So, and that could happen. I'm not saying it will, but it could happen. But as things stand, I've got the YouTube side of things, which is going really well. Like I'm really happy where things are at with that. The commission side of things has picked up, so I've kind of locally in the locality, the word of mouth things got about, so I've started to pick up more commissions, which is great. The website is launched, okay, which is going really, really well, much, much better than what I expected with the subscription platform. I've launched my own product. Can you believe this? 3 years ago, like, and where I'm at now. So my food safe wood finish, which is available on the website, and again, that's going really well. I've got affiliate links with people now. So if you haven't seen Shorts video, 038 adhesives, which is a fantastic range of CA glues. Okay, it's not just me saying that because it's a commission based. They really are fantastic range of CA glues. So I'll leave a link in the description for that, an affiliate link. So if you click on that, you can get yourself a 10% discount, and also a small commission goes to the channel and to myself. Yeah, I'm speaking with a small business advisor at some point this week about, where I'm at and how I can help grow things. So where do I see myself in 3 years' time? It's a really difficult question to answer now, because it's only kind of recently, and I'm saying recently as in the last 3 or 4 weeks, that I've maybe started to look at the bigger picture, because I never really saw myself where would I be in a week's time. It's just like you live your life week to week, but now is the potential for this part-time thing to be more than just part-time. I think there's definitely potential. Whether that's a realization, I'm not sure at this stage. I think maybe in a few months, maybe 6 months, in a year's time, I'll have a clearer idea in my head where I think things are here. But it's, as things stand, I started up nearly 4 years ago for completely different reasons, which I'll come to later. There's a question about that. I'll come back to that one. And to, in the very leaky garage, to be sat in here now doing this is just like mind-blowing. Literally is mind-blowing. I cannot believe how far things have evolved. I think it's probably a good word to describe it. And that's, only down to the people who, provide that motivation, really. So, yeah, so I think I can't answer the 3 years time thing, but I can say in the last nearly 4 years, things have come a long, long way, and if that arc, that line was to continue in that direction, heading upwards, then yeah, there's potential for this to be a bigger thing than what it currently is in my lifetime. Okay. Right then. One from Keith. What non-woodworking YouTube channels do you enjoy? Okay. As you may or may not know, I'm a massive music fan. Keith, and I just love, like I will go into, I think they call it, is it a YouTube wormhole? Is it where you click and you listen to a song and then the recommendations or whatever, it's clever what they do YouTube, and you just find yourself, and even like non-signed artists, just people doing covers or just that kind of thing. I've really been into watching anything music related on YouTube the last sort of 3 to 6 months. Just managed to probably re-galvanise a bit of enthusiasm for things like that, because the one thing I will say, being open, if you like, transparent, when the accident happened, so we're going back to 2018 here, and if you don't know, I'll fill you in now, that having lost the use of my right arm, and I was a piano player, music teacher, and I was a professional piano player, so I don't like to, to sing my own praises, but it was all right, it was pretty good. And that got completely taken away from me. And for a long period of, and music's being like literally the heart and soul of everything going on, I couldn't listen to music. I just couldn't listen to it, because I don't know if other musicians can relate to this. Sometimes you listen to a song and I would like kind of figure out the chords in my head, or you know, like the notes in the melody whilst I'm listening to it, and then would relate that to playing, and it became like a red flag listening to music, you know, and it's such a core part of the majority of people's lives, and to try and switch off from that completely was horrific, you know, it really was. So but you know, I seem to have got over that hurdle in the last, like, you know, last year or two, I think. So yeah, last couple of years, I'd say. So, and I'm really back into enjoying it now. I seem to have moved on from partly from that. So hope that one answers your question there, Keith. This one from my YouTube friend Carl Pope Woodcraft. Looking back on your very first video on YouTube, what was it that inspired you to do that video? Who encouraged you? What did you think when people commented? Right, okay. Blimey, right, here we go. So what inspired me to do that video? Okay, now I was off work, Cal, for nearly 2 years after the crash, and I realised that if I was to get myself back to work, I would have to re-find, I don't know, that's not the term, find again some self-belief and some confidence in myself again, because that was completely and utterly shattered. All right, so I think what it was, I took up woodworking as a new skill. I think folk know that because I've never done any woodworking really before. Shocking at DIY. And it came about through counselling, I think. So a counsellor suggested to me taking up a new skill, which I came back with woodworking, and they were like, okay, don't think they were ready for that one. And then it was kind of suggested, you know, like maybe documenting it in some way. I think it was initially suggested like doing a diary or something, or, you know, like a video, you know, just personally. And then I looked at, I was starting to learn the idea of woodworking or making stuff by watching YouTube videos, and then thinking, could I do that? Could I adapt it in some way? So that's how it came about. So the first video was, and if you go back to it, which was making a candle holder, you don't see me apart from my hand and arm, and you don't hear me speak, okay? And that's not down to shyness, that was down to shattered, I think I said something else then. That was down to completely and utterly shattered self-belief and shattered self-confidence. And that's where the YouTube stuff kind of really helped, okay? When I took that back to the council and suggested it, they said, go for it, why not? You know, when I suggested it to Pam, she said, I think that's a really good idea. So I started with just, I had I got a cheap tripod and I had my phone, and I just started filming, you know, watched a lot of content, you know, tried to get some ideas. And that's where it went. And what did I think when people commented? This is an interesting question, because when you're doing it for the first time, you only think people like in your local region, like, you know, YouTube's regionalised or something, you know, like News Northwest or something, you know, it's like you only think people around the locality would watch it. And when you start getting messages from, like, you know, Australia, US, Germany, South Africa, Scandi country, and you're like, oh my God, really? You know, like, and then you realise that YouTube does open you up to this wide world, and that was the kind of seed, I think, for rebuilding, you know, certainly where I'm at now, and rebuilding that little bit of, I hadn't completely lost myself, you know, I was still in here somewhere, I just needed to like rummage around and try and find it. So I hope that makes sense, Cal, because I've waffled on a little bit there, but yeah, it's a really good question, because people set up content creating, set up YouTube and stuff for a varied range of reasons. You know, some people do it because they want to earn money. Good luck. Some people do it just as a hobby, you know, and some people do it. You know, my motivation was, you know, completely different. You know, it was very much a personal, from a personal perspective. Right then, I think I'm done. So thank you to everyone for submitting your questions. All right, you know, I've really enjoyed going through these, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to some of my answers. Okay, so as ever, everyone, you know, take care, you know, look after yourselves. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.